Okay. I'll also just turn on my camera. You don't have to. That's fine. I'll just turn it on just in case, just so that there is a video for this.
Yeah,
So,
how are you? And I see you. Great. Super.
okay. So, hello, good afternoon, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jackie Rifkin,
And
RIF.
thank you. And I'm so glad that you were interested and able to participate in Project Humanity's 10-year anniversary. How has Project Humanities impacted your work?
All right, I go back with Neil on the Saturday service. I got into that. I do not know how I got to know him. I truly don't know, which is really funny. However, my background is basically school librarian, moved out here to Phoenix, was working, teaching 2015. Wow, a long time ago. And I was still working at the time, but able to do Saturdays. When I did that, we only had a tarp on the ground. It was very different than the organization today. And I'm just delighted to see how much more organized things are. Because at that time, people would bring us probably a lot of inappropriate things that we would not want to pass on to unsheltered people. And because of this, by 20, I wanted to do more. I wanted something that had more impact on people down there at Central Arizona Shelter Services, which I will be calling CAS. And got to know Amy and the different people at Andre House and whatever. And so I found out about the Homeless ID Project. I'm sorry they call it homeless, but that's all right. I joined that in 2018 as a volunteer and was with them until 2020 of March when they could not take any more volunteers. So I was also going out on Saturdays, seeing a lot of the same people that we had brought through the Homeless ID Project. So it all kind of combined. And it was, I studied the problems. I talked to Congress people. I talked to City Council. I talked to Amy, which I don't ask me to pronounce your last name. It's wonderful, whatever. Anyway, I really love doing the Homeless ID Project because this is number one. If you do not have a birth certificate or an identification, you cannot get a job, you cannot get housing, you cannot get anything. So what Homeless ID does, they can search 50 states for a birth certificate. And also it's mainly for adults, but sometimes people would come in with 4 little children with no birth certificates. The mothers had not applied at the hospitals. What had happened? Life happens. And I got to know Community Bridges and all the people who work at CAS. And it was a very sad day when I could no longer go there. Very sad. So that now, since then, it's almost been possible for me to return, but I decided not to. And so I love the fact that Neil brings so much attention to things that are going on in our community. And I have a notebook, scrapbook full of all his talks, all his articles that over the years. And I feel that the number one thing about Neil is that he taught for OSHR. Do you know about OSHR, Nandini?
I actually do not.
Okay, OSHER. And that is for people over 50, I think it's 50, who can take classes at ASU for a very nominal fee. And these are no exams. However, you never go on Tempe campus, which is great because that's a parking nightmare. Instead, we had classes, I went to many in the Tempe Library, which was marvelous, right down the street. And we would go there and we got professors. We went from quantum physics to art to literature to history, marvelous, wonderful teachers. And Neil did one in our downtown campus. He did two of them. And I watched him turn people around because the people who take OSHA are predominantly white, older people, rather conservative. And he got them, he went through and told them about the origin of nursery rhymes, which always seemed very sweet until you really looked at it. And I watched him turn those people around. It was marvelous. So I think that's a very important thing, is to reach out to people who don't necessarily share your same ideas. And that's what I try to do every day.
Yes, thank you. I completely agree with that. Like you mentioned how Dr. Lester pays so much attention to the issues at hand, and yes, I completely agree. It's not only does he cater to like, I did not know about this OSHA program. Thank you so much.
It is the largest in the United States.
Wow.
We are the largest in the United States. And we did it on Zoom. You see, it is in every university throughout the United States. And we did it on Zoom. And I'm sorry, I'm done with Zoom. I really could not pay the attention. However, what it enabled people to do, we had 200 people in a class. Before that, we were limited to maybe 35. And gradually, people learned how to do it, that, save the chat, save the questions to the end, if you know what I mean. You've been through it in classes, I'm sure, right?
Definitely.
Somebody, put your hand down. I didn't come to hear you. No, but it's a very, very big program. And also they do trips around the world and do other things too. So OSHA is a very, very big program and very important. But again, as I say, almost, I would say, I don't know. I don't want to give, it's mainly white. That's all I can say. Because I come from a very integrated city, Rochester, New York. And I always taught in integrated schools. And it was interesting to meet people out here from other states who never were in an integrated situation. And that was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. They hadn't read literature from all different cultures. They just were not aware of it. And I'm lucky to have family who has traveled all over the world. So due to my family, I've been able to travel to China, to India, to all different places. And that's the grandkids out there doing things, because they're all doing something wonderful.
Yeah, I completely agree. There is just so many people who don't know, like the example you mentioned, like the origins of those nursery rhymes. I only found out about those last year. I did not know. And it is honestly very surprising how many people don't know about those either. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Just looking at the words used in those, yeah.
Catch a tiger by the toe.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, but I worked in a school that was it was Black and Puerto Rican. We did not have one white child in my school in Rochester, New York. Schools are very segregated. They're segregated by neighborhood. And the teacher, I took away Little Black Sambo. And some of the teachers came in, and some of them were black teachers, and they said, "Where is Little Black Sambo?" And I go, "I'm not doing Little Black Sambo." Well, they wanted to do it. And I said, "What you do in your classroom, I can't speak to, but I'm the librarian, and it's not going to be in this library." And I was backed up by the principal, who was very, very aware. But so it's interesting what goes on, in literature and whatever. Of course, Huckleberry Finn, big deal, very, very difficult to do. And I know they do it differently throughout the system, but I did not really, I was elementary and junior, middle school. So I got a little bit of high school in the library. And that was back in the day. I mean, when we had card catalogs and stuff, it was so crazy. But yeah, so in this city, I also volunteered at different schools in the inner city of Phoenix, and I did have a couple jobs in them and found them, very sadly, I'm sorry to say, much like the inner city schools in Rochester, New York, in terms of the teaching styles, in terms of very low expectations of the children, very low. And I just kind of saw the same thing, and I always feel very bad about that. But there was nothing I could do as a volunteer, really. But we tried to do books. They have contests for you read a book, and then you go to a wonderful thing, and they read you questions from the book, and you have to identify what book they're from. It's marvelous. I forget what it was called. My grandkids did it. It was very exciting. And we tried to do that in the inner city schools, and simply no support. So that would have been, I mean, I really want kids to love reading, and there's ways to get them to love reading. And it's not to say you can only read a chapter book. You can't read a book with pictures in it. And I'm also an art docent, so I'm very concerned about art. So that goes on.
Oh, yeah. Wow, it's crazy. And if, like, just imagine what would have happened if you had gotten that support. It would have been amazing, I'm sure. And so moving on to my next question, are there any specific issues besides these ones that we've already talked about that really bring to heart the message of Project Humanities and what we stand for?
Well, the Project Humanities, when he has the meetings, they were marvelous. I can't remember the name of the book. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. An author of a book, and we met in a beautiful place on Camelback Road, and I met a lot of people that had come to hear her. Was an author of color. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was wonderful, and we got together and we loved it. Things where perhaps the audience is not quite in agreement. That I think to get to the other people.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a couple seconds.
I know. Yeah, I mean, Neil knows that I know the expression preaching to the choir, so you know it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I see at a lot of meetings, and things happen, and I think it's always good to try to bring up differences, bring up things, that might be, and in our so
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't hear you for the past few seconds because it cut out.
I know I got this, I don't know, my internet is strong, but I don't know with the laptop, I don't usually do this. No, I just said it's important to try to reach people who are not exactly like you. And I think that's very, very important. And right now, the country, not only are they split politically, now they're split scientifically. Now that we have, the vaccine thing, oh my goodness, what's going on with that? And living in Arizona, I don't know where are you originally Arizona? Have you lived
Yes.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Arizona, give me a break, I was just up north up in Flagstaff. Flagstaff's a little bastion of liberal, surrounded by other things. So it's really fun to live in a state like this. And I don't know, but our country is now, it's one more way to be divided.
Yeah.
One more way we can yell at each other. I don't know.
It's literally crazy how many people don't want to, like, are anti-vaccinations and
Yeah,
don't have the proper education to say, like, this is something we need to do. It is, like, it's
no,
the
they
way
know
we
it.
move out of this.
But you know how they get around it, Nandini? They get around, if you go on the internet, you can find anything you want to find, right? Whatever your thing is, they can always pull one. And I really think that the press and the media doesn't help because my family is kind of scientific. My daughter and my son-in-law and my grandkids were very kind of science-minded. And we always look at the numbers. So when they say, oh, some people who are vaccinated, they went on to get COVID, right? Then we say, how many? Out of how many millions? So it's just one more way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true how, like, the media can manipulate numbers like that, saying there were some people who did get COVID after getting the vaccine. And some people will take that and say, wow, the vaccine is dangerous. While others will say, just this, like, just a tiny proportion of people who got COVID. And then they wouldn't look at the other side either. Like, there's also how many people who don't have the vaccine got COVID. And
Yeah, I want to see that.
yeah.
That's you have to see. Yeah. So what is your major? Is your major sociology or?
Oh, I'm actually in high school.
No, I love it. What year are you in?
I'm a senior. I'm gonna be a senior this year.
Oh, that's wonderful. And do you have a mother who is a doctor?
I do not. Both my parents work at Intel. They are engineers.
Oh, they're engineers because of course I Googled you, and there's a doctor, Nandini a little more Raman or something. There's a
I
doctor.
know her actually. She's a friend.
Oh, great. Yeah, well, of course I Googled you because before I talk to anybody, I always Google them. No, so you're a senior in high school?
Yes.
Oh, that is so inspiring. That is so wonderful to see the things that you're doing. Woo. Do you know where you're going to go to college?
I do not as of now, but hopefully I'll be able to figure out soon.
Is it a good high school? Do you think your high school is doing a good job?
Yeah, it's Basis Chandler, so we're ranked seventh nationally.
I know about basis. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
also like you were mentioning different people, like getting to know different people with different cultural backgrounds. Our school, it's crazy how many different cultures are there.
Great. That's
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful because I know a couple other schools they're not basis, but they're from another very high functioning one of the charter schools and very little diversity. And that's because they only take siblings. You have to sign your baby up as soon as they're born to get on the list. And so that kind of perpetuates it. And they don't want special ed, anybody that's got any kind of special ed. And so that right there, it's a big barrier. It's a big barrier.
Yeah. I really our school definitely tries to we have this special ed program which I think really helps the kids who are in need of those types of programs. So that's like definitely one good thing I see coming out of our school.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I understand I think every parent, what really made me sad working in the inner city schools was talking to the parents because I would say to them, they'd say, oh, well, I don't know English. I can't help my kid. I go, do you know how to count? Sit down and count. I think the numbers are the same in any language, and there's so much you can do. And what I resorted to finally, Nandini, was when I was in the schools in Rochester, when I would get the fifth graders, we went up to like sixth grade, and 80% couldn't read on grade level. That's another story. However, I would say to them, I need you to read to your baby brothers and sisters. That's what I need. And they go, oh, they won't sit down. I said, yes, they will. Do it from the time they are born. And I said, I'm counting on you. That's that's what you have to do. Because right now I have great grandkids. They just turned 4. They're reading. And any kid
Wow.
has that. Any kid has that. It's not, but because, of course, their parents sat down and read with them. And I've never seen them tear a book, even when they were 2 years old. Never tore a book up, never did any of that. Really, really loved it. But their parents talked to them all the time. And there's just, and that's all free. That's all free. One of the jobs I did have was for Phoenix Library, Public Library. It was a program where we went out to daycare centers and we showed the staff how to read a book to a child because they didn't even show them the pictures. And they didn't know how to do any of the songs or clap their hands. And we showed them. And that was, I liked the job, but the kids wanted to go out the door with us. We would go there and they would be like clinging to my legs. It was like, no, that was under a government grant, And it was just like, oh, the stuff I saw. These were daycare centers. You see, if you are getting assistance from federal assistance called DES, when your baby is 1 year old, you must go to work or you must go to school if you don't have your high school diploma. That's the rule. Came in under Clinton. And you cannot have your mom or your cousin or a good friend be your babysitter. They have to be in these places. And unfortunately, the staff is not trained. They're trained to keep them clean. They're trained to keep them quiet. They're trained to, do that, but they're not trained to enforce learning and talking and exploring. None of that. So it was very sad to see those centers, and you just wish, I don't know, the government talks about families and then they do something like that, where no, you can't have your family caregivers. So anyway, I just do it for mine. I got 10 grandchildren and 5 great grands. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot of kids. How many kids? How many in your family?
Well, I only have one sister, but my dad has 7 siblings and my mom has 2.
Yes. Wow. Are they all here?
No, they're actually only one of my dad's siblings is here with her kids, but she lives in Tucson. But the
Right.
others are all back in India.
Where? Where in India?
We all are, we speak Tamil, so we come from the bottom, like the very, very, very bottom tip of India.
Are you
If you look at,
Gujarati?
huh?
Are you Gujarati? You're not
No,
Gujarati. No.
we're Tamil. Basically, if you look at an Indian map, the
Oh.
very bottom city is called Nagarkoil, and that's where we're from.
Oh. Oh. Okay. Have you visited there?
Yeah, I used to go there every summer.
There you go. You spend your summers. I know about that. A little rainy, right? Do you get the monsoons or not?
Actually, no, during the summer it's extremely dry, but it is humid.
Yeah, yeah. No, we just did, all I did was Mumbai. So
Ah,
that was good. Because my
Mumbai is
granddaughter was
nice.
interning. Yeah, she was interning there. And so that was pretty overwhelming. Mumbai is really overwhelming, and I didn't see it from the tourist. internet.
Oh, okay, you're
You hear
back.
me? No, I just said my family, a lot of my family are in Europe right now.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, they just took off. They go to Club Meds because they're, one side of the family is French. My son-in-law is French.
Wow.
From North Africa, his family, and then they lived in Israel, and they always went to Club Meds because you can put the kids in the camp in the Club Med, and it's wonderful, and everybody has a great time. So they've all gone off to Switzerland and Paris.
Oh, nice.
Well, they don't care. They travel. I'm a little tired of traveling. I just got back from 8 days up north, and I went to New York, but I'm going again. I'm going to LA.
Oh, wow.
Just when my granddaughter lives there with her partner, and she said, "Come for the weekend, Grandma. I want to show you LA because I don't know LA. I know San Francisco, but not LA." So they all moved out of San Francisco. I had some
Uh,
up there. But yeah, so have you been to New York City?
I have not. I've been to LA and San Francisco.
Right. You never been to New York City?
Nope.
Go, go, go. There is a drama and art in every single sidewalk. And it is totally, totally safe. You know, you hear all these things like, oh, New York's terrible. And it's not true. I was just there. And I take the subway and I get around and it is fine. The shelter situation. But here in Maricopa County in 2004, and Neil didn't tell me this, but I found out, there was a proposal to put shelters in Tempe, Ahwatukee, Apache Junction, Glendale, Scottsdale, you name it. Oh, what is it doing?
We're back.
No, I said, have you been to Cast? Have you been down there?
I have not.
Okay, go with Neil some Saturday. Tell your family to go along and go see it.
Yeah,
Because
I
what you will see is the failure of, it's right, it's about 2 blocks from the state capitol. And that's what's going on. Right now, they've cleaned up a lot of the streets. And for the summer, they put them behind barbed wire and tents. And when COVID came, they tried to get more people into shelter and whatever. But they only have 400 beds, and they could have more, but city council turned them down. So there's a lot. It's really good to see. And you look at the people as people. You know, some people go down there and they just look at them like, oh, those are homeless people, you know, and they're people. And it's good to do. You know, and I know that's why I actually had to take the trip. I took the tour. I wanted to know where they actually do have clothes there for them, but they're only allowed 1 outfit a week. You know, there's all kinds of barriers. And what they're looking for are barrier-free shelters where you can bring your dog in, where maybe you do have an addiction problem, maybe you do have a mental problem, and you can still, there will be people there to help you, but there's not a barrier. And that's kind of what's going on. So anything else you want to ask me, and I'll let you go.
I think we've covered pretty much everything I had. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to meet you, and I'll be Googling you, and I will be watching your progress. You're a wonderful young woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.